My name is Bill Hall. Welcome to this month's Cedar Hills Ready education meeting. So tonight, we're going to focus on indoor hazards, looking at fire prevention and safety inside the home. And once again, we have Deputy Fire Marshal Stephanie McKee to help us understand these topics. Okay, at this point, I'm off stage, and I'd like to introduce Stephanie McKee of the Tualatin Valley Fire and Rescue. Stephanie?
Thanks, Bill. So as Bill said, I am a deputy fire marshal and I work in fire prevention. So my job is to do fire inspections, community outreach, which includes things like this, and just trying to reduce the risk of injury and death to our residents. So I appreciate everyone taking the time tonight to listen. All right, tonight we will talk about the basics of fire, legacy versus modern furnishings in your home, smoke and carbon monoxide alarms, escape planning, fire extinguishers, fire causes, cooking safety, heating safety, electrical safety, and then kind of a catch-all with the other considerations. So whenever I teach fire safety, I always include the fire triangle. It's a basic 101 on fire science. So in order to have a fire, you need to have heat, fuel, and oxygen. And the reason why I always include this is because we get a lot of calls with people concerned about fire hazards. And I think for you to kind of work them out in your head too, when you're thinking about home fire safety now moving forward, think about if those three elements have the ability to come together. And if they do, then you do have a fire hazard on your hand. And then we think about it too, as far as fire suppression goes. So when our crews come in with water, we are cooling the fire and taking away the heat element. So heat can be from electrical sources, appliances, it can be from an open flame. Fuel is anything that can burn, and almost anything on earth will burn if it's hot enough. And then oxygen, of course, is just automatically in our air. 40 years ago and beyond, our home furniture was made of more natural materials like real wood, cotton, and nowadays things are more mass produced. They're made cheaper, they're made to be lighter so you can move them around. I'm not knocking IKEA, I have IKEA furniture, but think of IKEA furniture, how that's a lot lighter than something that you would get at an antique shop like an armoire or something like that. So those natural materials, they take a lot longer to burn because they're a lot more solid and they're natural. And when they do burn, they're not giving off as much toxic smoke as these synthetic materials that we use today in our homes. And then this includes anything from your furniture to the things that you put on your wall, you know, the artwork and knickknacks and things like that too can be part of that. So back, 40 years ago and beyond, they said you had about 30 minutes to escape in a house fire. And today that number is closer to 2 minutes. So it is more important than ever that we do escape planning and we know what to do to keep our home safe and that we practice. So now Bill's gonna play a video and it can be a little alarming. I wanna give you just a heads up on that because you see fire and how destructive it is, but I think it's super important.
Oh my God, that is insane.
In the event of a fire, who here thinks that you're safer sleeping with the doors open?
I keep them open because I was a mom for so long.
My kids' room is 2 doors down from mine.
Always open.
I'm not all that confident they would stop anything anyway. Harold, hey. Ben. Ben, nice to meet you.
Harold, have a seat.
Hi, nice to meet you guys.
Hello. I'm right here.
Chris, how are you?
Great.
As you think about fire safety, what keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I'm not too concerned.
I probably don't think about a fire threat as much as I should because I do forget to turn things off often.
Have you ever been through one?
A fire? No.
We told you that you'd be coming here today for discussion, but what we didn't tell you is that there is also a demonstration that we want to show you. Sound good? I want to introduce you to Steve, the director of the UL Firefighter Safety Research Institute. I'll let Steve take it away.
Welcome. My job is to lead a team of people that study how fire grows and spreads so we can keep you safe. Here at the Delaware County Emergency Services Training Center, we essentially turn this place into a laboratory. We've got several structures around here that we build to simulate where you live. And one of those structures is right here behind me. What I want you to do is I want to take you inside here, and I want you to see how this looks like your home. And then once we get you outside, we're going to go ahead and recreate what would happen if there was a fire in this structure right here. Look pretty normal? Yeah, got some furnishings. You'll notice the difference down here as we walk down. This bedroom door will be closed, and the one at the end of the hall will be open. And what I want you to do is pay attention to the comparison of the two of those and think about you and your family trying to survive this fire. All right, we just hit the button. We have ignition.
Oh boy, there she goes. Oh man, that is scary.
It's scary, right?
It's really crazy.
Look, we have smoke coming out over here already.
Smoke's coming out.
What a lot of people don't realize is that the furnishings that are in our homes today are made of synthetic materials. So they burn so much faster than your old natural cotton-filled furnishings used to be. The statistics that we've seen through our research is in about 40 years ago, you had about 17 minutes to get out of your house after the smoke alarm sounded. Now you have less than 3 minutes.
Holy crap. See, this is the things that we were... Oh my God. Whoa. Can you feel that? How can you survive that? Seriously, that is insane.
All right, go ahead, knock it down. All right, as you remember, closed door on the left, open door on the right. And you can see the dramatic difference between the two with the simple closed door.
Impressive.
We want people to be as prepared as possible and understand the importance and how little time you have and what that simple barrier can provide to you and your family should you have a fire. I want you guys to throw some hard hats on and some safety glasses and at least poke your heads in the windows, or you can even walk in the hallway if you want.
Give me a word or phrase to describe what you just saw.
Anxiety.
Frightening.
Terrifying. I really didn't expect anything like this.
I'll ask you one last time. In the event of a fire, are you safer sleeping with the doors open or the doors closed?
Without a doubt, the door closed.
Definitely with the doors closed, and from now on, the doors will be shut at night.
Definitely closed.
Closed.
Definitely closed. And I'm surprised by it.
It's always great to be able to get the message out when we can take our research and get it out into the community to change behavior with the message of close before you doze. It feels great, and hopefully we can save lives.
If there was one bit of advice that you could give friends or family today, what would it be?
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze.
Close before you doze. Close before you doze.
Close before you doze.
The key fire safety messages we want people to have are, one, have working smoke alarms in every level of your home, inside and outside every sleeping room. We want everybody to have an escape plan. Should you have a fire, you should know how to get out quickly. And if you can't get out quickly, having a closed door between you and where that fire is critical to your survival.
So hopefully that gets you thinking if you are somebody who sleeps with your door open. So the other thing that it's super important to have is an escape plan. So we talk about this a lot with children because they're going to need help often to get out. But even as adults, it's good that we think about this, especially if you have loved ones that maybe need a little bit of help. Maybe you're caring for your parents who are older, or maybe you just have somebody in your family who has special needs that might need a little bit more time to get out. It's good to think about this and to, make sure everybody is on the same page and knows what to do. So first thing is you want to know 2 ways out of where you sleep. So typically we get out through our doors. We all know that. But if your bedroom door is closed, because it will be from now on, and you hear your smoke alarms going off, and you get to the door and you feel that it's super hot, you don't even have to hold the handle. You would feel the heat coming off of it. But if you feel that's super hot and you are not comfortable opening that door, then you would go to the window. And I'll talk about that more in a second. But when you open the door and you look in the hallway, if there is way too much smoke in there and you also don't feel like that's safe, that's also where you would refer to your window. But keep in mind that smoke is going to rise and it's going to be up towards your ceiling. So until you can get outside, it's safer to stay low. So if you can get outside safely, we do want you to crawl or get as low as you can, given your physical abilities. So now for the windows, I know ahead of time, if some of you were on, you heard that not everybody has a first floor window or a window that you could easily jump out of and not hurt yourself badly. So we do want you to go to the window and think about firefighters. We are going to be able to get you out of that window if that is the only option. But another thing you can do to prepare is to have an escape ladder. So you can get escape ladders at hardware stores. I know Target in the past, I've seen them there. I'm not plugging a specific store, but stores like that, Walmart has them. Pretty much any of those, Amazon, you can find them. The thing with the escape ladders is you don't want to practice on a high up floor because they're super wobbly, so they're to be used in emergency only. If you do want to practice those so you feel a little bit more comfortable, practice on a first floor window just so you don't have any injuries trying to practice. And then make sure you keep it out of the box and ready to go if there is an emergency. You don't want to be fumbling with the box to get it open and get it out. So if you don't have an escape ladder or that's not something that you think you could do, we want you to stay at the window, open it up, yell for help. If you have neighbors nearby, they will be able to tell us. But the first thing that we do when we get to a fire, we do a 360. So we walk around the structure to see what's going on for our own safety and so that we kind of understand the fire behavior from the outside. So if somebody's at the window yelling for help, we know right away that we need to get a ladder up to you and we need to get you out, or we need to go through the house to get you out that way. So we'll do the safest route for you, and that's what we're trained to do. Another helpful thing that you can do if it's the middle of the night is turn a light on while you're at the window. That'll help us see you as well. And of course, if you are trapped, call 911 inside the house. So let's see, consider disabilities and impairments. So that could really slow you down if you have to get a loved one or somebody in your house out, if you're responsible for getting that person out safely. So potentially having that person, if there's a first floor bedroom, that might be best for that person, or a bedroom closer to your bedroom. Just try to think about that whenever you do have those folks in your home. And then also consider if you have grandkids, they may have an escape plan at home, but if they're staying at your house, they may not have a clue what the escape plan is. So that's kind of a fun activity that you can do when you have young ones staying with you or family members, and involve everyone in the plan. Make sure everyone is aware. And then you also want to have a meeting place. So that's someplace out front that everyone knows to meet each other at. So typically with parents too, you may have one parent that goes out a side door with one of the kids and another parent goes out another door with the kids. And if you don't know where to meet each other, you're not going to know the other one is safe. So we have had fires where we've lost people who have gotten out safely and they didn't see their family and they got worried. So they went back in to get them, but their family was already out. So that's terrible. So having a meeting spot really does help. And then we recommend calling 911 once you get to your meeting place. And the exception to that, of course, is if you are trapped inside. And then keep the doors shut, as you saw in the video. One other thing I want to say too, when I did fire investigations, when we found people who didn't make it, typically they were in bathrooms or closets. So bathrooms and closets are very small. There's not typically two options to get out from those. And being that they're small, once the smoke gets in, it doesn't take much to succumb the person inside. So it's going to make you dizzy. You're not going to know how to get out. You're not going to be able to yell for help. And it's going to take us a lot longer to find you if you're not able to tell us you're in there. So once you're out, stay out. Even if you think it's just a little bit of smoke and you have time to grab something really quick, just stay out. Because if you're in there, then we've got to dedicate those resources to getting you out, or we're not able to put out the fire quicker. So it's better to stay out and let us do our jobs. All right, so smoke alarms and carbon monoxide alarms, these are single-handedly the best thing you can have in your house to protect you from a fire. So the technology today and the laws and where they should all be placed is all in place to provide that early level or early warning so that you can get out as quickly as possible. So that 2 to 3 minute timer for you to get outside, you have them go off at the earliest warning sign. So if anyone's ever had them go off when you're cooking, you know that they're pretty sensitive and they'll go off at just a little bit of smoke or particles of combustion in the air, like when somebody's cooking. So they mentioned it in that UL video, but I'm going to repeat it. You should have a smoke alarm and a carbon monoxide alarm, if you have a source, on every level of the home. And then they should be outside of the bedrooms, and then smoke alarms should also be located inside the bedrooms. So typically, if you have a 2-story house, you may only need 2 carbon monoxide alarms, 1 on each floor, and then just make sure that wherever the bedrooms are, there's at least 1 carbon monoxide alarm near there. And I recommend doing a combination for the areas that you would need the carbon monoxide alarm, just because it's one less extra thing to maintain. So with smoke alarms, they typically recommend replacing them every 10 years, or per the manufacturer's recommendations. Most that I have seen are 10 years. So on this picture here, you can see the manufacturer date is October 20th of 2015. If you're unsure of how old yours are, you could screw it off the base and look at the back. If it's yellowing, it's too old, I can tell you that. If it has nothing on the back telling you a date, it's definitely too old. So those are a couple heads up for you on those. So in newer homes, there's going to be typically hardwired smoke alarms, because that's what the laws were when the homes were built. So I'll give you an example. My house is 1979. So the one hardwired one in my house is in the hallway, because that's all that was required at the time. And when I bought the house, they had battery operated smoke alarms in the bedrooms. That's totally fine. They're all going to work. Now with the hardwired ones, they are interconnected because they're typically on newer homes, they're all ran off the same wiring. So if one goes off, they all go off. But there is new technology now where you can get the battery operated ones that have interconnectivity. So they have that technology where they can talk to each other. So if that's something where you do have folks in the home that you worry they may not wake up or hear them if they're far away, look into getting some that are interconnected. The other thing we get asked a lot, well, if it's hardwired, why do I need a battery in it? So the battery is just that extra level of protection. If you have a power outage, you want to make sure that that smoke alarm has power all the time. So I know a lot of people with the ice storms lost power for a week. Can you imagine a week without having smoke alarms? Anything could have happened, especially with folks looking for alternate heat during that time. So it's super important that you replace the batteries. If you want to avoid those false alarms, we recommend replacing the batteries once a year and replace them in all the alarms so that you're not getting any faulty batteries. And then, so CO alarms, how do you know if you have a source? So carbon monoxide sources, it's from incomplete combustion. So vehicles can do that. And that's where, if you have an attached garage, you should have one. And then if you have any gas to your home, so natural gas or propane. And then if you have a fireplace, that's another source. And then as I said, each level and within 15 feet of the bedrooms. All right, so our leading home fire causes, number 1, cooking. So really depends. I've seen different statistics, anywhere from 39% to 50% of the home fires are caused by cooking. And then heating equipment makes up for 12.5%, and electrical is 6.3%. So I know the electrical number seems pretty low, and it is, but it's still something that we should be aware of and know what to do. So cooking safety, we'll start there. So it's really important that you stay in the kitchen when you're cooking, especially anything on the stovetop, stay in the kitchen. I know we have so many distractions these days with all of our technology. We're all stressed, we're busy. The pandemic's added a new layer of things for us to worry about and on our minds, but staying in the kitchen is the best way to be present and know if you're burning something. And then the other thing is set timers. So if you're baking something or you have something in the oven, set a timer. You don't necessarily have to stay in the oven. or in the oven. Please don't stay in the oven. You don't have to stay in the kitchen, but set timers and make sure that you can hear them. I know with my old oven, I couldn't hear the timer, but Alexa can give me a timer and I can hear that one, or my cell phone. So just make sure you can hear them if that's the case. And then be cautious with medications or alcohol. We get a lot of cooking fires around 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. People get home from the bars and they want a late night snack and they think French fries are a great idea and they're going to fry up some French fries. But it's not just alcohol. If you are taking a new medication and it's something that could make you drowsy, be conscious of that before you start cooking and make sure you know how that's going to affect you. And then keep combustibles away from your cooking equipment. When I did fire investigations, I saw more than one fire where people put stuff on top of their stove top because it's a clear place to put things. They came in with groceries and they set it down, and then the knob for one of the burners accidentally got hit, and then whew, they had a fire. Also saw that happen with people moving, where they put a moving box there. Pets can hit those knobs, especially if they're on the front side. Kids, maybe you didn't turn it off all the way the last time you used the oven. So just keep your cooktops for cooking. And then put a lid on it is our kind of campaign. If you do have a cooking fire in a pot or a pan, you want to smother it. So we want to take away the oxygen in the fire triangle. They say you can put, the pot or pan lid on it, and I think that's a great tip. But I know me, when I'm cooking and I grab a lid, it is never the right size. Now, if I'm cooking and there's a fire and I have adrenaline, I'm definitely not going to grab the right size lid. So my kind of safety thing that I like to think of or use is a cookie sheet. They're nice and big. They're going to be bigger than your pot or pan, and you don't have to get as close to the flames if you're using a cookie sheet. So you can hold it back here and just kind of slide it over the top. And then once you have it slid over the top, you turn off the burner, you're taking away that heat element and just let it cool. And then you can take that whole pot and the cookie sheet outside once it's cool and let that smoke go outside so it's not smelling up the house anymore. And if you do have a cooking fire inside your oven or microwave, don't open the doors on those. You're going to get a lot of smoke in your house and it's going to add oxygen to it. Shut off the equipment that's taking away the heat element, and then just let it cool down. With any kind of fire, especially cooking fires, please call 911. You are not bothering us. Even if you put the fire out yourself or you were able to get it out, fire can smolder behind surfaces and then flare up later, like when people are sleeping, and we don't want that. So we have the equipment to make sure that the fire is not behind any surfaces and that it's truly out. But also, let's say you had a fire in your oven. We have the manpower, literally, to take that oven outside and vent it outside so that you're not having that smoke smell in your house for months to come. So, and it doesn't cost anything, and that's what we're here for. Also, be conscious of long hair. Keep it tied back when you're cooking. And then be conscious of your sleeves. If you have really loose sleeves, that could easily catch on fire if you have long, loose sleeves. So be mindful of those. All right, heating safety. So we're right in the right season for this right now. We do typically start to get a lot of fires around this time of year when people are turning on their cooking equipment for the first time. And that's typically because they haven't maintained it, or they haven't done the cleaning like they should, or misuse of it. So I'll talk about some of the ways to be safe with that. So number one is give these things space. Keep anything that can burn at least 3 feet away from the heat sources. So cadet heaters, baseboard heaters, your actual vents in your floor or your ceiling, those aren't going to put off enough heat to cause a fire, so you don't have to worry about those. But any appliance that's producing heat, keep everything at least 3 feet away from that. And then plug your heating equipment directly into an outlet. So heating equipment is going to draw a lot more power, and it needs to have a direct connection into the outlet. It can quickly overheat and overrun power strips and extension cords. And if you look on your heaters themselves, they will say plug into a grounded outlet. So don't use anything but the outlet for those. And then don't leave like a space heater on or go to sleep with it on, or a fire burning. Sorry, I read that one out of order. So the reason why with those is if you do have a fire, and it is really common with space heaters to have fires, but if you do have a fire and you're sleeping, that just lowers your response time. And so that's why with the fireplace and with space heaters, we recommend if you leave the room or the house or go to sleep that you turn them off, or you don't leave the house if you do have a fire in the fireplace. And then the other thing that we see is damaged equipment. So either the appliance itself is damaged somewhere or the cord itself is damaged. So what we'll see where you plug things in, that end piece, if you are used to kind of grabbing it by the cord, that connection there, the housing can start to break down and expose the wires inside. So if you see that you have any kind of damage to your equipment or your cords, make sure that you don't use that equipment and you replace it with a new one. And then we also recommend having your fireplace cleaned and your furnace tuned up annually. Of course, with the fireplace, that depends on use. If you are a very low user of your fireplace, you could probably get by with 3 to 5 years, depending. But the chimney sweep can do an inspection, and they can also let you know how much buildup you have and kind of give you that peace of mind. All right, so electrical safety. Only use extension cords for temporary use. Extension cords are designed for portable, small appliances for temporary use, so up to 90 days. So think about Christmas lights, that's temporary, at least in some neighborhoods, maybe not, some people forget, but up to 3 months. And then really smaller things, so like a box fan, power tools, lawnmower, an electric lawnmower, things like that. But heavier duty things like your refrigerator, your microwave, any kind of appliance like that should not be plugged into an extension cord. And again, if you look at the back of the appliance, it will tell you, if that's the case, to plug it into a grounded outlet. Your blow dryers should say the same thing. So just keep that in mind. Don't overload the circuits. And I know that not everyone knows how many amps things draw and whatnot, but typically if something is above 15 amps, that's drawing a lot of power, and you need to be mindful about not putting any of that stuff into extension cords or power strips. If you do need an outlet kind of in a different spot and you have lower powered equipment like your TV equipment, all of that stuff today is typically energy efficient. So plugging your TV, your computer stuff into a power strip with surge protection, that's a great alternative as long as the power strip is plugged directly into the outlet. And let's see, same thing with the equipment and wiring that I talked about in the last one. Just make sure that none of that is damaged. There's no nicks on the cords. And we also don't recommend putting rugs or carpeting over any cords. It can build up resistance and you could have damage to that cord and you wouldn't even know because it's under the cord. So, and then if you're doing, or if you need electrical work done, make sure it's done by a qualified electrician. And then the other one going into this winter season, make sure you're only using rated outdoor cords and equipment for outside. So with extension cords for things like Christmas lights, just make sure that on the tag it says for outdoor use, because those will help protect you against shock with all of the rain that we get here. They are a little bit more expensive for the outdoor use ones. I know those little kind of small extension cords that we get at the dollar store, those are not typically going to be fine for outdoors. So just be mindful of that. So some of our other kind of leading fire causes are candles and smoking. So with candles, the great thing with 2021 is we have oil diffusers, we have wax melters, we have plugins, we have all the things to make our houses smell good that aren't going to cause fires. So consider one of those alternatives. And there are also the battery operated candles that go on timers, so it's even better. Smoking, still a huge fire cause, and it's not just cigarettes. Marijuana smoking, I investigated plenty of fires from that. And the big thing with smoking that we get a lot of times is, again, people are drowsy, they're tired, and they start smoking. And if the cigarette or the pipe falls out of their mouth, especially if you are on a couch or in bed, that's going to be a big problem. So if you're where the fire starts, you're going to have even less time than the 2 to 3 minute spot. And then smoking on oxygen should go without saying, but again, we still have lots of those fires. So if somebody is on oxygen and they are a smoker, that is a very bad combination. So make sure that find somebody that can talk some sense into them so they're not putting those things together. Bathroom fans cause way more fires than I would have ever guessed. This picture here is a picture of a dirty bathroom fan. So what happens particularly with older models, I think it's like the 90s and before that, they didn't have the built-in safety feature that'll kind of shut it off if it overheats. And so that dust on there is all combustible. So if the motor is overheating, then it can catch that dust on fire. And then that fire is going to be in your attic space, which you don't have smoke alarms in, and you're not going to notice it as easily. So with those, if you have an older one, maybe time to replace it anyway. Maybe it's a loud one and you want a new one. That's one thing. Or clean them regularly. Or the other thing to consider is putting it on a timer. So newer ones have to be built with a timer so that people aren't leaving them on long term. So really, they're meant for temporary use, not to be on all of the time. And then clothes dryers, we do get a lot of fires with those still. So making sure not only just cleaning your lint trap, but the vent from the dryer itself through the wall. And if you have one that's kind of hard to reach or get to, there are companies that can clean your dryer vent as well. So chemical storage, just be mindful. If you get some sort of chemicals at the hardware store, read the back of it. It'll tell you how to store it properly. It'll tell you how to dispose of things properly. And that's even just for your own kind of health safety too, that you're not exposing yourself. Maybe you're not supposed to have that chemical touch your skin directly. It's always a good idea to read your labels. And it will also tell you if there are other chemicals or things that it shouldn't be stored next to because of incompatibility. So with rags that have flammable or combustible liquids on them, you don't want to throw those into your garbage can or a dumpster. So those can, if they're kind of balled up, they can build up resistance and self-ignite. So what I do whenever I use rags with those kinds of materials on it, I put it in a plastic bag, kind of take out as much of the oxygen as I can, Ziploc bag, and then seal it shut. Other people too, you can get like old cans, like a paint can, put them in there. So all of that, it'll run itself out of oxygen. It's not going to be able to really ignite. Trees and power lines, I put this on here because, again, of the ice storms. We do have a lot of problems when there's super windy days or heavy loads like ice on trees. Those can easily take out a power line and cause a very bad problem for lots of people. So if you do have trees close to the power lines, PGE will come, I think it's every other year, and they'll cut the branches down that are close to the line. But if you have one that's getting close, it's your responsibility as a homeowner. So just make sure that you're being mindful of that. And that also goes for wildfires. Those can definitely cause wildfires if you've got trees too close to them. So some other considerations, fireproof safe. I think the one that I got was about $25 at the hardware store. And I have my passport in there, my birth certificate, kind of those things that really you don't want to lose in a fire. Maybe a thumb drive, stuff like that, that it's rated, it's going to kind of withstand that fire. And you could also grab it easily if you had to leave, like for an earthquake or a wildfire. That's something that you can easily grab. And then the other thing I have on here is to document your home contents. So I have talked to many people who have had home fires, and one of their biggest complaints is trying to remember everything in their home, because the insurance company will want to know, what did you have in this drawer? Tell me every single thing that you had in this room. And trust me, it's gonna be hard to remember. So maybe take your cell phone, kind of do a little video of each room, drawers, if you have anything special in them, that's good. And keep an actual document somewhere, send yourself on your email, make sure you send it to yourself, saying, all of those valuable things and where they're located within the home. That's what I would recommend. The other thing I put on here is renter's insurance. So even if you're a homeowner on here, if you have children who are renting or somebody close to you that's renting an apartment or a house, please, please, please make sure that they get renter's insurance. Their stuff will not be covered by the homeowner's insurance or the business owner's insurance. Like if they're an apartment, that's not going to be covered. So having that renter's insurance is typically $15 to $25 a month, and I cannot recommend it enough. Then the other thing I have is keeping your electrical panel clear and accessible. If you have a smaller fire, the firefighters, first thing they're going to want to do is secure the electric so that they don't have an electrocution hazard. So we need to get to that panel very quickly. And then if there is a big fire too, we need to shut off all of the power. So we don't want to be moving your kayak and your filing cabinet out of the way so that we can get to that. So just keep them clear. All right, here's a little video now of how to use a fire extinguisher by a couple of my colleagues.
All right, so we're gonna stand about 6 to 8 feet from the fire and always have an exit at your back. So we're gonna pull the pin, gonna aim and squeeze and sweep. One more thing, the plastic tab is just a security device to hold the pin in. So when you do pull this pin out, pull straight out or pull and twist, whichever is easier, and hold the bottom handle.
All right, so if you have a fire extinguisher at home, you may be wondering if it would work. So they do recommend that you replace them every 12 years. If you are not sure how old yours are, they're either on the label itself. So the picture on the left side, you can see where it says 2013. Or if you can't find it on there, look at the bottom and it would be stamped in like the one on the right that says 04. But I will tell you in my experience that older extinguishers, as long as they are not before 1984, they will work in a fire as long as they are showing that they have adequate pressure. So that picture in the middle that shows that it's full, that little needle in the green, that's what you want to see. And then look at the cylinder itself and make sure that there isn't any damage to it. If there's damage, there's no guarantee that it would work the way that you need it to. So I would replace it then. You can get bigger fire extinguishers. You can recharge those if necessary. And by that, I mean, they call them 5-pound fire extinguishers. So your little small home ones that you see, you know, that's probably the ones that you would get at the grocery store or hardware store, like the really small ones that are like this big. The home size one is what they're called. They have plastic tops on them and they are not rechargeable. And so even some of the 5-pound or greater ones, well, I've seen some older 5-pound ones that have plastic tops. So plastic top ones can't be recharged, but the metal tops can if needed. And any of the fire equipment companies should be able to do that for you. If you do need to replace your extinguisher, you can take your old one to Metro when they have their hazardous waste collection. It's not actually hazardous waste in there. It's like a baking soda material inside, but they'll take it for you. You can also dump out the powder and replace or recycle the cylinder with metal recycling. So there's some options for you. All right, so remember to have an escape plan. Remember that fire triangle. And with that, I just mean, if you're really concerned that something could be a fire hazard, just try to envision if those 3 things can come together and how you can make sure that they don't so that you can be safe. Make sure, number one thing that you do is make sure your smoke alarms and your carbon monoxide alarms work and that they're in place. So I didn't mention how often to test them, but we recommend testing them once a month. Be very mindful when cooking, pay attention. And then with fire extinguishers, how to use them, the PASS method, pull, aim, squeeze, sweep. And then keep your heating equipment maintained and only use space heaters and fireplaces while you're at home and awake. And then only use undamaged electrical equipment and do not overload circuits. So here's my contact info and our website.
That's it?
That's it until the questions. That's it for me.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Wow, you really covered a lot of territory tonight. So you may want to access some of the resources that we have available For a more leisurely review of the topic of fire safety, go to the home fire safety link shown here, and then there's a copy of this presentation and an additional video on how to use fire extinguishers. Now, there are lots of other resources on our website, including our Get Prepared Now booklet, which is shown here on the left, and that's free for downloading our website.
Hi, folks. This is Karen from Cedar Hills Ready. I hope you gained some tips that may save your life or the lives of those you love. If you like this video, click on the like button below and subscribe to our channel for more tips and information on how to get prepared. Be safe.